The NBA has a template. Superstars score, stars trend, role players defend. It's clean, predictable, easy to evaluate. We know what a franchise player looks like. We know what a role player looks like. We know how to rank them, compare them, debate them. Jeremy Sochan doesn't fit that template. He's 6'8", but he brings the ball up the floor, he guards centers in one possession, and switches onto point guards in the next. He plays with visible personality, he changes his hair constantly. And in the middle of an NBA season, he shot free throws with one hand. Not because it looked cool, not for attention, not for branding. Because he was missing them. That's not marketing, that's belief. But belief doesn't show up in a box score. Ask the average NBA fan what they think about Sochan, and you'll probably hear something surface level. He can't shoot, he's inefficient, he plays on a tanking team, he's not a star. And that's where this gets interesting, because the numbers most people use to judge him, points per game, field goal percentage, highlight clips, might be the wrong numbers. So the real question isn't, is Jeremy Sochan good? The real question is, are we evaluating him correctly? If you love deep basketball breakdowns that go beyond highlights and surface level stats, subscribe to NBA Echoes, because here we don't just watch the league, we study where it's going. And if the NBA is evolving, Jeremy Sochan might be closer to the future than we think. Before San Antonio, before the NBA, before the colored hair and defensive switches and public experiments, there was his mother. Anita Sochan was a professional basketball player. That matters more than most people realize. Growing up around a professional athlete doesn't just teach you how to dribble or shoot. It teaches you how to think. You learn discipline. You learn how to respond to failure. You learn how to train when nobody's watching. You learn that improvement sometimes looks ugly before it looks impressive. That environment builds something deeper than skill. It builds psychological durability. Jeremy Sochan didn't grow up in one culture. He grew up between them. American father, raised in England, representing Poland internationally. That creates a different kind of confidence. When you grow up navigating identity across countries, languages, and systems, you stop worrying about fitting into one narrow mold. You get comfortable being different, and that comfort explains a lot. It explains why he doesn't panic when he struggles publicly. It explains why he didn't hesitate to switch his free throw form mid-season. It explains why he accepted playing point guard even when it made him look raw. This isn't recklessness, it's conditioning. It's someone who understands that growth sometimes requires temporary embarrassment. At Baylor University, Sochan wasn't the leading scorer. He wasn't the headline name. He was the disruptor. He came off the bench. He won 6th Man of the Year in the Big 12. But what really stood out wasn't scoring volume. It was defensive chaos. He guarded guards. He guarded wings. He guarded bigs. Switch onto a shifty guard, he slides his feet. Switch onto a physical wing, he absorbs contact. Switch onto a center, he fronts the post and contests vertically. Most college players survive one defensive assignment. Sochan thrived in unpredictability. And that's critical because defense, especially versatile defense, translates. Isolation scoring in college doesn't always translate. Shot creation sometimes doesn't. But lateral quickness, anticipation, rotation timing, communication, those survive the jump. That's why the San Antonio Spurs drafted him. And that's where things get complicated. The Spurs are not a random rebuilding team. They are one of the most system-driven organizations in basketball history. Structure, discipline, long-term development. So when Gregg Popovich made a 6'8" forward initiate offense at point guard, it wasn't random. It was intentional. And yes, it looked messy. Turnovers, awkward spacing, stalled possessions, national commentators questioning the experiment. Fans were confused, but here's the deeper layer. Modern basketball is shifting. The best teams switch everything. They prioritize size with skill. They blur positions. They value decision-making from multiple spots on the floor. The Spurs weren't trying to make Sochan a traditional point guard. They were expanding his processing speed. When you force a forward to initiate offense, you sharpen vision. You improve reading defenses. You develop patience. It doesn't always look pretty in year one, but it raises the ceiling. The Spurs weren't optimizing for wins. They were optimizing for evolution, and evolution is uncomfortable. Now let's talk impact, not points. When Sochan is on the floor, the Spurs' defensive rating improves compared to when he sits. His defensive estimated plus-minus consistently ranks above average among young forwards. Opponents shoot lower percentages when he's the primary defender, but beyond numbers, watch the film. He shades ball handlers toward help defenders instead of overcommitting. He rotates early from the weak side, cutting off driving lanes before they fully open. He switches without panic. He absorbs contact without fouling. And this is key. He doesn't hunt steals recklessly. He doesn't gamble for highlights. He calculates. Most young defenders rely on athleticism. Sochan relies on positioning and anticipation. That's sustainable. Then came the moment that defined his public perception. Mid-season. Free throws struggling. The percentages weren't acceptable. Instead of hiding or making excuses, he switched to one-handed form. The internet laughed. Commentators questioned it. Fans made memes. But that moment revealed something deeper. Public experimentation requires security. He wasn't protecting his image, he was protecting his development. Most players are terrified of looking foolish in front of millions. Sochan leaned into it, and eventually his percentages improved. That's growth mindset in real time. Now let's address the tension directly, because this is where the debate lives. Here's the case for Jeremy Sochan becoming an all-star level impact player. He's 6'8" with lateral mobility. He can guard 1 through 5. He has passing flashes and ball handling comfort. He reads defensive rotations early. He doesn't shy away from experimentation. If the jumper becomes league average consistent, his value multiplies. If the decision-making tightens, he becomes a connective engine, the kind every contender needs. But here's the other side. The shot isn't consistent yet. The offensive ceiling isn't clearly defined. Playing on a losing team can distort habits, and role ambiguity sometimes slows clarity. That's real. So here's the real debate. Is he a future all-star whose growth just needs patience? Or is he a high-level role player being mistaken for something bigger? That gap is narrow, and that's why he's fascinating. Because he exists right on the edge between elite glue guy and modern two-way star. And the difference between those labels might come down to one thing: the jumper. Now layer in Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama bends defenses vertically. He changes spacing and rim protection instantly. Sochan operates horizontally. He switches, he stabilizes, he connects possessions. One alters the geometry of the floor, the other maintains structural balance. The Spurs aren't building highlight reels, they're building architecture, and Sochan might not be the face, but he could be foundational. The NBA says it values versatility, but history shows it celebrates scoring. Jeremy Sochan doesn't scream stardom, he whispers impact. He experiments publicly, he sacrifices numbers for development. He absorbs defensive assignments without complaint. He plays a style that doesn't always trend, but always matters. He is one of the most misunderstood young players in the league. Will he become an all-star? That depends on the shot, on patience, on whether the Spurs' development plan pays off. But here's what's undeniable. If he becomes great, it won't be because he suddenly changed who he is. It will be because the league finally understood what he was becoming. And if you enjoy deep NBA breakdowns like this, where we challenge narratives and study the evolution of the game, subscribe to NBA Echoes, because the future of basketball won't always look obvious at first glance, and we'll be here breaking it down.